What up, YouTube? This is Dimitri, and this is my Elos 70. Been seeing a lot of videos of people posting their tanks online and on YouTube and stuff like that, so I figured I would make my own and see if anyone would be interested in it. It's a Elos 70. I think it's roughly around 55 gallons. It's kind of a cubish tank, so it's not exactly a regular 60 or anything like that. It's a little bit longer and deeper, which gives some really nice dimensions if you want to do some nice rock work. I originally had a BioCube 29 and transferred almost all the livestock but none of the rock over from here. This tank's been up for about, I think, 8 or 9 months now, and there was some ups and downs with moving the tank over. I'd never really transferred a tank like that, and wasn't really, not prepared, but wasn't used to seeing those growing pains. I'm always very slow when I go through and do my tanks. I don't like to rush anything. I'm not throwing in like Biospira or anything and dumping 10 fish in at once. So generally take my time. I moved a lot of, mostly what I moved over from my BioCube was this rock right here, which was almost all zoas, and I actually paid for this tank by fragging a lot of what came out of my BioCube and selling to some of the local reef groups, and that paid for the second radion that I put on the tank and the mounting arm, because I originally had one on the BioCube, but I was going to run one on here, but the more I looked at it, the more I realized that wasn't really going to be enough light. So once I got the money for it and I put the other light up there, I'd always really wanted to get into SPS, but hadn't really, I don't know, had the balls to do it. But I decided after a couple months of setting up this tank that I was going to go for SPS. And a lot of the rock work I built all this rock work out of Bulk Reef Supply Reef Saver. And it's about, I think, about 70 pounds. I have another video on my channel that shows right when I put it in. But I ended up gluing it together with the E-Marco cement, and I tell this to anyone that's setting up a new tank now that, man, it is invaluable to be able to have your rock one giant piece. And if you look, a lot of these rocks are just, sorry about the glare, are suspended and hanging in free floating structures over here. And that's something you can't really do when you stack rock work, because I'd always stack rock work in all my other tanks, and then you got to move something or frag falls behind the tank somewhere, and guess what? It never looks the same after you've shifted it around and moved it. And once you have corals growing all over the rocks, you're trying not to smush things. But this way, I'd had an ick breakout, and I needed to catch some of the harder to catch wrasses, and I was able to pull all the rock work in this tank out in, I think it took about 2 minutes. I picked them up in one big chunk with all the coral on it and everything, and set it on my table with some with a big towel down, and caught all the fish and threw all the rock back in there, and the rock was out for less than 3 minutes. And I mean, you'd never be able to do that if you were to have it all in, you know, if you had stacked it all, then the whole thing would have come crumbling apart, and you would have had to redo it all. And like I said, it never looks the same after you take it apart once. But I moved to a lot more SPS dominant in this tank. You can see I have a lot of these. I'm a cheap reefer. I buy everything is single polyp or tiny little frags. Like I have a lot of reef raft pieces and some Jason Fox pieces, and I will buy this. This is a Fox Flame right here. See if I can get a zoom up on it. This is a Jason Fox Flame Fox or Fox Flame, and it's quite a pricey piece. But I find someone that has a big colony of it, and I say, hey, what will you give me for like 50 bucks? And they cut that little nub off. But you know, a lot of people like these big, you know, frags, and I'm perfectly fine getting a tiny frag and then letting it grow out. Equipment wise, I have an MP40 on it, and then in the back I have an RW8, which is pointed towards the non-existent sand bed, and that really keeps the whole tank stirred up. There's literally nothing anywhere in this tank that coral can settle. I used to have a sand bed, or not coral, detritus. I used to have a sand bed in here, but I just didn't like having to constantly vacuum it out, and I felt like it was causing a lot of dead spots. So over the course of a month, I slowly removed it. And actually in some of these spots here, it's kind of cool. This rainbow money I have started encrusting. So I broke a bunch of chunks off of it. And you can see here I've glued them sporadically all over the area where the tank gets light, and they're starting to encrust pretty well onto the bottom. And hopefully here within about a year I'll have one big rainbow Monty bottom. Other than that, MP40 and the RW8, I have two XR15s. And I have them running on the Coral Labs AB Plus schedule. I have the narrow lenses in them and running it at 70% right now. I also have some custom Lee Russ design mounting arms that look a lot better than the Radion RMS system in my opinion. Whole tank's controlled by an Apex. And other than that, I run a SWC 160 cone skimmer, an Eheim 1260 return pump, and then I also run a Refugium with a no-name China LED bulb, and then I run about a quarter cup of biopellets in a kind of a DIY reactor that I have down here. Also I use two bulk resupply dosing pumps, which I dose bionic calcium alkalinity, and I think I'm up to 22 milliliters a day right now. The biopellets, I know a lot of people have a lot of problems with them, but I think that the major problem with them is people will set them up thinking that it's going to cure a problem in the tank, and they'll implement them wrong, because as far as I know with biopellets, you have to skim really, really well when you do it, because that media knocking around in there is going to create a lot of that bacteria that comes out of it. You have to skim that stuff out right away. That's really nasty stuff you don't want going into your tank. So with mine, I have it off a manifold here, and then it goes in, and then I have it, you can't really see it right now, but down in right around there, this tube goes down right into my skimmer intake. I actually made a little custom piece of PVC so that the skimmer skims it out right away, and you can see here, I'll turn on the light, and once that's in place, it starts skimming out some nasty gunk. But you have to think, you have to also feed extremely heavy once you have that running, because that thing is going to pull out a lot of the nutrients, and you can strip your tank really fast that way. So if you're going to run biopellets, you need to feed extremely heavy to counterbalance that. Other than that, if anyone has any questions, feel free to post them in the comments and let me know. Yeah, thanks again.